All right, everyone, welcome back to MasterStack. We're kicking off a brand new course today, and for one, I'm really excited to dive in.
Yeah, this one's going to be good.
Yeah, it is. So today we're taking a deep dive into the world of OpenShift.
That's right, a deep dive into OpenShift.
If you've ever, wished that deploying applications could be as easy as like ordering takeout,
Yeah.
OpenShift might just be the answer.
Oh yeah, it simplifies things a lot.
It really does. And we're going to sort of use this deep dive to go through that introductory material and really highlight what's important about OpenShift. So whether you're brand new to this or you've been doing it for years, this deep dive should have something for everybody.
There should be a little nugget in there for everyone, for sure.
It's really just getting your feet wet with OpenShift and getting comfortable with the platform and all the things it can do.
And I think that's important for anybody starting out with OpenShift. Like, you don't have to be a cloud expert.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to know anything.
Yeah, this is a place to start.
Okay, so let's break down this OpenShift thing.
Okay.
It's described as a platform as a service, or PaaS.
Right.
What does that even mean in plain English?
So imagine a restaurant kitchen, right? Yeah. The developer, you come in with your recipe, your application code. In a traditional setup, you'd need to worry about everything. Setting up the ovens, prepping the ingredients, managing the cooks, the works.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But with a pace like OpenShift, the kitchen is already fully equipped and staffed.
Oh, nice.
You just bring your recipe and let the platform handle all the cooking and serving.
So it's like having a whole team of invisible chefs.
Yes.
Working behind the scenes to make sure my application is cooked to perfection and delivered to my users.
Exactly.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, OpenShift is a developer-friendly platform for cloud computing specifically.
Yeah.
Platform as a service. So it allows for automatic application deployment.
Okay.
And basically what that means is as a developer, you don't have to worry so much about the back end, the server, all that kind of stuff.
That's infrastructure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The infrastructure side of things, you get to focus on the application.
Yeah. And when they say applications, that could be anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It could be a website. It could be, some sort of back-end service that's, serving data to a mobile app. It could be any of those things.
Even a game. You could be building a game.
Exactly. And here's another interesting bit. OpenShift is developed by Red Hat, and they offer a free community version called OKD.
Oh, wow.
So you can actually start experimenting with this powerful platform without breaking the bank.
That's amazing. But I'm guessing there's still some technical wizardry going on under the hood.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
What are the key ingredients that make OpenShift tick?
Well, remember those terms we mentioned earlier, Docker and Kubernetes? They're the backbone of OpenShift.
Okay.
Think of Docker as creating those neat little meal prep containers, each one containing all the ingredients and instructions for a specific part of your application.
Okay.
Then Kubernetes acts like an incredibly efficient kitchen manager, orchestrating those containers, making sure they're placed on the right stovetop, cooked at the right temperature, and served to your users seamlessly.
Okay, that analogy is really clicking for me.
So you can think of Docker as a way to package your application. Kubernetes is a way to manage and orchestrate those applications, and then OpenShift sits on top, and it provides a bunch of developer-friendly features and tools.
So Kubernetes is kind of like the foundation.
Exactly. It's like the operating system of the cloud, if you will.
I like that analogy.
And it's actually pretty much just a certified version of Kubernetes, but with some additional features that are really great for developers.
Awesome.
And that's why it's important to have a basic understanding of Docker and Kubernetes.
Right.
If you really want to get into OpenShift.
Yeah, and you know what? We actually have deep dives on both of those topics that we did a while back. So if you want to go back and check out those episodes.
Yeah, definitely. Don't worry if those terms sound a bit intimidating right now, like Kubernetes and Docker.
Right.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll have a solid grasp of OpenShift, even if you're new to these technologies.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So OpenShift takes these containers and manages them across different environments.
Yes.
Does that mean I can easily move my application from development to testing and finally to production?
Absolutely. That's one of the major advantages of OpenShift. The architecture is designed to support deployments across different environments, like development and production. Yeah. So you might have a dev environment, a test environment, and then a production environment.
Yeah.
And it facilitates CI/CD, or continuous integration, and continuous delivery.
Okay, and can you just explain what those are?
Yeah, so continuous integration is The practice of merging all developer working copies to a shared mainline several times a day, and continuous delivery is kind of an extension of that, where you're also deploying to production.
Gotcha. So it's like this constant like back and forth and iterating.
Exactly. It's automating that entire process. Imagine being able to instantly update your live application with the latest changes without any downtime or manual intervention.
Wow.
OpenShift makes that possible.
That sounds incredibly efficient. But how do I actually interact with this platform? Is it all command lines and complex configurations?
OpenShift is actually very flexible in that regard.
Okay.
It offers a visual console, which is great for getting a bird's eye view of your applications and resources.
Okay.
If you prefer the command line, there's a powerful CLI tool.
Gotcha.
And for the more code-savvy users, there's a REST API that allows you to automate and integrate OpenShift into your existing workflows.
Wow. So there's a way to interact with OpenShift no matter what your comfort level is with tech.
Exactly that.
Okay, and I think this is kind of an important point, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a fully featured platform.
It is.
And you can interact with it however it makes sense for you.
Right, and I think that that's something that that OpenShift does really well. It gives you a lot of different ways to interact with the platform.
Right.
It doesn't force you to do things a certain way.
Exactly.
So if you're comfortable with the CLI, you can use the CLI.
Right.
If you prefer a graphical interface,
Right.
the web console is there.
And even if you want to build some custom tools or automate things through scripting,
Absolutely.
you've got the REST API.
That's right.
So it's a very powerful platform in terms of its flexibility.
Very powerful, very flexible.
Yeah, cool. Now I've heard a lot about cloud computing lately, and I'm wondering where OpenShift fits into that whole landscape.
Good question. OpenShift is a prime example of platform as a service.
Okay.
Which means you don't need to worry about managing the servers, the operating system, or even the Kubernetes setup.
So it takes care of all that for you.
All that is taken care of for you so you can focus solely on developing and deploying your application.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we keep saying cloud, and everyone kind of throws that term around. But when we talk about cloud, there are different ways to use it. There are different flavors of cloud. Can we unpack that a little bit? What's the landscape look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the most basic level, you've got what's called on-premise.
On-prem?
Yeah, this is where you have all your own servers and all your own infrastructure, and you're managing everything yourself.
So if you've got a server room
exactly
in your office,
that's on-premise.
That's on-prem.
Then you move up to the cloud, and there's a few different models. The first one you'll hear about is IaaS infrastructure as a service. And this is where you're renting out basic building blocks like servers, storage, networking, things like that.
Okay.
So you have a little bit more flexibility, and you don't have to manage the hardware yourself, but you're still responsible for setting up the operating systems and all that stuff.
So the virtual machines and all that?
Exactly.
Yep.
And then we get to PaaS, where OpenShift lives. And here you're getting a more complete platform for building and running applications. So things like the operating system, the middleware, the runtime environment, all that stuff is managed for you.
Okay, so it's like IaaS plus some more.
Right, exactly. It's like taking care of all the plumbing and wiring so you can just focus on building your house.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then there's SaaS, which is kind of the next step up. Is that right?
Yeah, so SaaS is software as a service. And this is where you're just using a ready-made application that someone else is hosting and managing. You don't have to worry about anything other than just using the software.
So that's things like Gmail or Salesforce.
Yeah, those are classic examples of SaaS.
Awesome. So OpenShift is PaaS, so it kind of sits in that nice sweet spot of I have some control, but I also don't have to worry about all the low-level stuff.
Right. It gives you the control you need without all the headaches of managing infrastructure.
Awesome. So what are some of the key advantages of choosing OpenShift over other platforms?
Okay.
There are so many options out there. It can be overwhelming.
One of the things that sets OpenShift apart is a feature called source to image, or S2I.
Okay, source to image.
Remember those Docker containers we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, S2I takes your application code and automatically builds it into a ready-to-deploy container image.
Okay.
It's like having a magical chef who takes your recipe and instantly prepares a perfectly portioned meal ready to be served.
Hold on, so it does all the packaging and configuring for me. That sounds almost too good to be true.
It does a lot of the heavy lifting, yeah.
Can you give me a real-world example of how S2I would make a developer's life easier?
Let's say you're building a web application using a framework like Ruby on Rails.
Right.
Traditionally, you would have to write a Docker file, which is a set of instructions on how to build your application image.
Right.
With S2I, you just point OpenShift to your source code repository, and it automatically figures out how to build the image using a predefined builder specifically designed for Ruby on Rails.
Wow.
It saves you tons of time and eliminates potential errors.
I see. That's a real game changer.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working on a tight deadline.
For sure. And it automates the entire lifecycle from code to build to deploy.
That is really cool.
Which simplifies those CI/CD workflows we talked about.
Right.
So it's a really powerful feature.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Let's talk about CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery. This is something that OpenShift is also big on.
Yeah, so CI/CD is this practice where you automate the process of building, testing, and deploying your software. So every time you make a change to your code, it goes through this pipeline where it gets automatically tested, integrated with the rest of the code base, and if everything passes, it gets deployed to your users.
So it's like a constant stream of updates and new features going out to your users.
Exactly. It's like having this robot that's constantly building and releasing new versions of your app.
I love that analogy.
And it's really a key practice in modern software development because it allows you to get your changes out to your users much faster.
It speeds up the whole development process.
Exactly.
And it's more reliable because everything's automated.
Right. You're not relying on humans to manually do all these steps, so it's less prone to errors.
And what are some of the other key features?
So some of the other key features are things like fault tolerance.
Okay.
So your application can keep running even if part of the infrastructure fails.
Gotcha.
You have scalability.
Okay.
So you can handle spikes in traffic.
Right.
You have automated deployments.
Okay.
You have application writing through what's called ingress.
Okay.
You have user and project management.
Right.
And then you also have pre-built templates, which are like pre-configured applications.
Yeah, just so if you want to get up and running really quickly,
Yeah,
you can use a template.
exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So for example, OpenShift takes care of things like fault tolerance. So if there's a hardware failure, your application will automatically get moved to another server and it'll keep running without any interruption.
So that's like high availability, right?
Exactly. It ensures that your application is always up and running.
That's awesome.
It also handles scaling. If you suddenly get a huge spike in traffic, OpenShift can automatically spin up more instances of your application to handle the load.
That's so important, especially for like e-commerce sites or anything that could potentially go viral. You don't want your app to crash just because you're getting a lot of traffic.
Right, exactly. It's all about making sure your application is resilient and can handle whatever you throw at it.
What about managing access and permissions? It sounds like a lot to juggle if you have multiple teams working on different parts of an application.
You're right, managing access can be tricky.
Yeah.
But OpenShift has robust features for user and project management.
Okay.
You can easily create roles and assign permissions to control who can access what.
Very cool.
Plus, it integrates with existing authentication systems so you don't have to manage separate user databases.
It seems like OpenShift covers all the bases.
Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive platform.
So we've talked a lot about some of the core features of OpenShift, but there's also a whole world of advanced features that we could spend hours talking about.
Yeah, there's things like routes, which allow you to control how users access your application. You've got image streams, which allow you to manage different versions of your application. And then there's volume management, which allows you to deal with persistent data.
So this is like next level stuff.
Right, exactly. But it's really powerful stuff that allows you to do some really cool things with your application. Think of routes as intelligent traffic directors for your application.
Okay.
They make it easy to expose your services to the outside world using simple and memorable URLs.
Gotcha.
No need to mess with complex network configurations.
Makes sense.
And image streams provide a way to manage different versions of your application images,
Okay.
making updates and rollbacks a breeze.
This has been an amazing overview. I'm already starting to see how OpenShift can simplify my development workflow and help me build more robust applications.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, this has been great.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore,
Well, I bet.
especially when it comes to integrating OpenShift with other tools and services.
So for our listeners out there, the big takeaway is that OpenShift takes this really powerful technology. Kubernetes adds a layer of developer-friendly tools and automation on top. It basically makes it really easy to build, deploy, and manage applications in the cloud.
Exactly. It simplifies the whole process and makes it much more efficient.
And I think as we delve deeper into OpenShift, it's worth thinking about how this platform is going to impact the future of software development. Like, is this going to become the standard way to build and deploy applications?
Yeah, that's a great question to consider.
So before we wrap up, can you give us a sneak peek at what we'll be diving into in our next episode?
In the next episode, we'll be taking a closer look at the different OpenShift versions. You'll learn about the evolution of the platform and what each version brings to the table.
Awesome.
Stay tuned for the upcoming modules.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, this is going to be a good deep dive.
It is. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure as always.
And we will see everybody in the next course on MasterStack.
See ya, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.